Before we get started, here is your spoiler warning for this video. This video contains major spoilers, so you have been warned. Death is a part of cinema just as it is a part of life. The majority of movies are centered around conflict, and more often than not, this conflict is resolved by somebody dying. And while we as viewers have just about seen it all, even the most desensitized among us can still be left shocked by a death scene that catches them totally off guard. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with the 10 most shocking movie deaths of 2022. Number 10. Duke Cody in Glass Onion: A Knives Out Mystery. The marketing for Glass Onion: A Knives Out Mystery did a fantastic job of concealing even the basic particulars of its narrative, enough that most probably assumed that the victim at the center of its murder mystery would be Elon Musk-esque tech bro Miles Bron. So quite a surprise it was then when at the end of the movie's first act, the victim is actually the most physically capable member of the entire assembled party, streamer and men's rights activist Duke Cody. After accidentally drinking from Miles's glass, Duke drops down dead, having apparently consumed poison that was actually intended for Miles. But of course, it's revealed at the end of the story that Miles himself switched glasses with Duke and intentionally poisoned him with pineapple, which he is deathly allergic to, after Duke found out that Miles was responsible for killing Andy and then tried to blackmail him over it. It's a brilliantly devious sleight of hand all in all, and hopefully Rian Johnson will hoodwink us all over again with the already confirmed third movie. Number 9. Dante Hicks in Clerks 3. We're still not over Clerks 3. Given that the long-awaited Clerks threequel was inspired by Kevin Smith's own experiences of surviving a near-fatal heart attack, most fans likely expected it to be a life-affirming, dew-eyed send-off to lovable slackers Dante and Randall. But Smith decided instead to say farewell to these characters with an all-timer bummer of an ending, where Dante and Randall have an emotional argument before Dante suffers his own heart attack, after Randall had one at the start of the movie and is hospitalized. A distraught Randall visits Dante in the hospital and shows him a new cut of the movie based on their lives they've been making, at which point Smith cuts to Dante watching the film in an empty cinema with his late partner Becky. Soon after the film finishes, Dante dies peacefully as Randall looks on. While Smith clearly wanted to deliver a more realistic ending to his trilogy following his own brush with death, for many it rang sour that after suffering through so much grief and pain, Dante died without ever getting a chance to better his life. The closing sight of Randall at the quick stop counter while the ghost of Dante looks on was absolutely soul-crushing, and fans remain heavily divided on whether killing Dante off was the right call. Either way though, nobody saw it coming. Number 8. Romonda in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Given that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever was intently focused on T'Challa's family grieving his untimely death, it didn't seem likely that any further losses would be incurred by his loved ones. So quite the shock it was to see T'Challa's mother, Queen Romonda, killed off at the end of the film's second act when Namor launches an attack on Wakanda. The attack leaves Romonda and Riri Williams trapped inside a flooded room, with Romonda using the last remnants of her strength to swim Riri to safety, albeit while drowning herself. Given Angela Bassett's absolutely phenomenal performance as a grieving mother and scorned queen throughout the film, it seemed damn near certain that she'd survive, but instead her death only furthered Shuri's own arc, now deprived of her father, brother and mother. Number 7. Elizabeth Meekins in Amsterdam. Anyone irritated by the presence of Taylor Swift in David O. Russell's Amsterdam didn't have to suffer through it for long at all, given that she was unexpectedly dealt a brutally violent demise in one of the divisive drama's very first scenes. Swift plays Elizabeth Meekins, the daughter of a senator who believes her father was murdered, a suspicion corroborated by Dr. Burt Berenstain and lawyer Harold Woodman. But when Burt and Harold track Liz down to explain the truth, she's racked with paranoia, adamant that hitmen are out to get her. And that fear is confirmed no more than a few seconds later when she's abruptly shoved into traffic by assassin Tarim Milfax, who then blames it on Burt and Harold. Beyond the fact that Liz's death comes totally out of nowhere, seeing Taylor Swift of all people pushed underneath a car and crushed to death by it surely wasn't on anyone's 2022 movie bingo card. Say what you will about Amsterdam, but this was a veritable holy shit moment. Number 6. Natan in Avatar: The Way of Water. First of all, Avatar names are really hard to pronounce, so if I butcher any of these, I do apologise. Though the trailers seemed to imply that Neytiri might not make it through James Cameron's long-gestating Avatar sequel in one piece, it was actually another member of her and Jake Sully's unconventional family that didn't survive to the end. It's ultimately Natan, their eldest son, who is mortally wounded after being shot by Quaritch's men while rescuing Loak, Tsireya and Spider. Given the movie's overall family as fortress theme and the tendency for big Hollywood blockbusters to avoid killing off children, it came as a genuine surprise, in turn delivering an unexpected emotional gut punch to boot. The affecting cherry on top comes at the very end of the movie when, after Netaim's funeral, Jake and Neytiri connect to the Metkayina's spirit tree and interact with Netaim through their memories of him as a young boy. Number 5. Clementine and Winston in Triangle of Sadness. Delicious black comedy Triangle of Sadness revolves around a cruise for the mega rich going horribly wrong, as it's beset by choppy waters, food poisoning, a drunk captain, and even pirates assaulting the super yacht. Early on, we're introduced to a wealthy elderly couple on board the ship, Clementine and Winston, who, despite their seemingly affable demeanours, soon enough revealed that they made their riches through the manufacturing of grenades. And so this pays off hilariously and shockingly later on as all hell breaks loose and pirates approach the ship. One of them pulls out a grenade and throws it onto the boat, at which point we cut to Clementine and Winston enjoying the sunrise just as the grenade lands at their feet. Clementine picks it up and confusedly shows it to her husband, asking him, "Isn't this one of ours?" And just as Winston realizes the grenade is live, it detonates, presumably killing them both. Like the entirety of this savage satirical movie, the messaging isn't subtle in the slightest hit, but it certainly hits its desired target. Number 4. Ali in Terrifier 2. Even with the reports that epic slasher sequel Terrifier 2 was so insanely brutal as to make people vomit and pass out in cinemas, nobody was quite prepared for how far Damien Leone would take the violence. And the film reaches its undeniably grisly peak when protagonist Sienna's friend Ali is viciously slaughtered by the sadistic murderer Art the Clown. The agonisingly prolonged death scene sees poor Ali have her eyes sliced open before her scalp is torn off, her back is flayed, and her arms are broken and ripped apart. And just when it seems like Ali's torture might be at an end, Art exits the room only to return with bleach and salt, which he pours on her gaping wounds before finally ripping half of her face off. While it wasn't remotely surprising that Ali died, the manner through which she shuffled off her mortal coil tested the intestinal integrity of even the most die-hard of gorehounds. Number 3. The Illuminati in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness certainly pushed the PG-13 rating to its absolute limit, courtesy of director Sam Raimi. Not content to merely deliver a weapons-grade dose of fan service by introducing Strange to the Earth-838 version of the Illuminati, Raimi promptly brought fans back down to Earth by brutally killing these new characters in front of their very eyes. Within minutes of Strange meeting the illustrious supergroup comprised of Mordo, Captain Carter, Black Bolt, Captain Marvel, Reed Richards, and Professor X, they're attacked by a bloodthirsty Wanda. After taking care of the Ultron drones guarding the Illuminati HQ, Wanda systematically kills each of the members save for Mordo. Richards is spaghettified before his head pops, Carter is sliced in two by her own shield, Captain Marvel gets crushed by a statue, and Professor X has his neck broken. The worst of all though, just as Black Bolt attempts to stop Wanda with his sonic scream, she removes his mouth, causing the scream to reverberate back into his own head, caving his skull in and killing him. While not massively graphic from a visual perspective, the idea of the death is absolutely horrifying, and the fact that Raimi got away with showing Black Bolt's head deflating like a sad balloon, albeit while covered with a mask, is frankly astonishing. Number 2. Bracken in Crimes of the Future. Child death in any movie is inherently surprising, but trust David Cronenberg to make it especially discomforting. Cronenberg's new body horror romp saw walkouts within the first 5 minutes of its premiere at the Cannes Film Festival, largely due to a deeply unnerving opening sequence involving the murder of a young boy. But first, some context. The film takes place in a future dystopia where humans have evolved in unexpected directions. Our first glimpse of this is an 8-year-old boy, Bracken, who can eat and digest plastic. Bracken does this against the wishes of his horrified mother, who, after catching him eating a plastic bin, decides he's inhuman and must die, and so as he sleeps, she picks up a pillow and smothers him to death. To make it worse, Cronenberg spares no detail, lingering long on the boy as he struggles to survive, and we're then forced to watch as the mother calls Bracken's dad to tell him that he can pick up the dead body of his creature son. Despite the lack of visceral gore that audiences expect from Cronenberg, the scene had a queasy, stomach-churning quality all of its own. Number 1. Keith Toshko in Barbarian. And finally, we come to the single most buzzed about horror film of 2022, Barbarian. Early viewers assured everybody else to go in as blind as possible, and anyone who did was surely left with their jaw hanging off by the end of the first act. To begin with, we're all led to be supremely suspect of Keith, the man who has double booked an Airbnb house with protagonist Tess. But it ultimately turns out he's nothing more than a nice, normal guy. But sadly, a nice, normal, dead guy. Eventually, the pair discover a secret tunnel in the basement of the house, and when Tess heads down there to find a missing Keith, she runs into him seconds before he's attacked in the darkness by a gigantic, deformed, nude woman. Keith is helpless as his head is smashed into the nearby wall until it's nothing but bloody pulp while a terrified Tess looks on. To make the whole thing even more shocking, director Zach Kreger then abruptly cuts to black and shifts to a whole other setting and perspective for the bulk of the second act. And that concludes our list. If you think we missed anything, then do let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us there. And I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.